Did the Bank of Commerce in Savannah, Georgia, finance the last shipment of slaves ever to come into the United States? And did it help sell them after there was a trial that started the Civil War? It sure was. And the guy's name that did it was Charles Augustus Lafayette Lamar. And his daddy owned the bank. This was the largest sale of human beings in the Western Hemisphere. That sale happened right after the fastest boat in the world, the Wanderer, dropped off what was left over from her 500-person cargo. There were rules that governed how much space you had to give an individual when you were transporting them across the ocean. And since the Wanderer was a smaller and much faster ship, it broke the rules. They knew that the Wanderer was twice as fast as any other ship, so they gave the people below deck half the space as any other ship, and they stacked them front to back like spoons in a drawer. During that inhumane treatment, you can see that the mortality rate was one of the highest in that era, and they had to get rid of those people quick. So Charles Augustus Lafayette Lamar said that his buddy Pierce Butler owed him a bunch of money as a gambling debt, and they sold all of Pierce Butler's slaves to satisfy that debt. And those people were sold at the horse racing track that Lamar owned by Joseph Bryan. You see, Joseph Bryan sold human beings in Savannah, Georgia, and some of them were Masons. And of course, he was a politician, so that made everything okay. Anytime somebody had a $2 bill in their pocket, you knew they had been paid off by a politician because it was legal to give somebody $2 for their vote, or you knew they had been at the horse racing track because today, $2 is still the minimum bet on a horse race. Thus the saying, 2 bits on the nag. It's super easy to go to this place on Google Earth if you just zoom into the Wanderer Trail right there. It's on the south end of Jekyll Island. And Jekyll Island sounds familiar because that's where the Federal Reserve was formed that corrupted the whole country. But if you zoom right into the south end of the island right there, you can click on the Wanderer Trail. That's where we're going. The whole memorial and trail is interactive as you walk through it. You can actually get in the exhibits and listen to some of the sounds. I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel. The people that committed this crime were the children of the forefathers of this country. Charles Augustus Lafayette Lamar is the guy who organized the entire thing and owned the Wanderer to get those people from Africa to Jekyll Island. And his daddy is the one that signed that $2 bill right at the beginning of this tick. His dad, Gazaway Bug Lamar. That guy signed the $2 bill. His son that owned the Wanderer was called a fire breather. The fact that he was acquitted of this crime and his father-in-law was the judge is what fueled the Civil War. April 5th, 1861, the Wanderer is seized by the United States. It was actually 7 days later when the corrupt U.S. government told everybody that the South fired first. This guy owns the boat, and this guy owns Jekyll Island, and he ended up selling it to the federal government so that they could build their playground for the Rockefellers and all that stuff on Jekyll Island. But they were charged with taking those Africans to the landing at Jekyll, and they were all acquitted. That whole thing right there started the Civil War. While we were there, this boat was literally sitting right off of Wanderer Landing on Jekyll Island. Now keep in mind, the Wanderer had just landed with 400 people right there in the horizon. And this is Butler Plantation, right on the backside of Jekyll Island, and they want everybody to think that those people were sold to satisfy a gambling bet that guy had right there. His name was Pierce Butler, and his father's name was Pierce Butler as well, and he signed the U.S. Constitution. The people that signed the United States Constitution did so in a secret meeting, and the people that were leading them were the most prominent Freemasons in the United States, George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. He signed it right there. And Pierce Butler was in the secret meeting behind locked doors when they formed the United States Constitution. And this Master Mason, he was a big part of it, Benjamin Franklin. And Benjamin Franklin published the first Masonic book in the colonies specifically for George Washington. That's that old Grand Master brother Benjamin Franklin right there. So Benjamin Franklin republishes a book on Freemasons about constitutions, and then they signed the U.S. Constitution in a secret meeting. Prepared in secret. Pierce Butler was a founding father. The Sons of Liberty met right there in Savannah, Georgia. And just in case any of his son's slaves ran away, he's the one that put the part in the U.S. Constitution that said that they had to be returned to the owner. One more idiot yet to discuss, and his name is Joseph Bryan. Now, Joseph Bryan, he sold people in Savannah, Georgia. Joseph Bryan's father was Jonathan Bryan, and he used to own this man right here next to me named Andrew Bryan. But he granted him his freedom and gave him a big piece of property and allowed him to build the first African Baptist church, which was the first black church ever built in America. They said that he endured beatings just like Jesus Christ. The whole bottom of the church was built out of brick so that you couldn't set it on fire, and they were 3 foot thick. Joseph Bryan's father probably liked Andrew Bryan, the slave, better than he liked his own son. That's why Joseph Bryan probably had no problem selling the brick masons that helped build the first African Baptist church. The first African Baptist church was a depot on the Underground Railroad. They called her Moses because she helped so many people escape from slavery. And when Benjamin Franklin reprinted the constitutions for the Freemasons, it talks about Moses too. Those knuckleheads want you to think that Moses was a grand master. And that's because those knuckleheads, Master Masons, thought they were going to ascend into heaven. Duh! What the U.S. Constitution points out that we'll be run by a Capitol, and this is painted on the dome of the Capitol. Got that big old Freemason throne in heaven, don't you? In the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C. The churches that were scattered along the Underground Railroad were probably some of the first times that people ever heard about Jesus Christ. But they had to drill holes through the floor of the church so the people could stay underneath it and breathe while they were having services above. That image of the cross drilled into the floor right there is some of the first salvation that those slaves that came to America got to see. The first time the word Underground Railroad was used was when somebody was quoting a young slave that wanted to escape freedom by a railway that went all the way underground to Boston. And when you think of all the amazing things that have been built in this country, a tunnel underground, it's not a big deal. Harriet Tubman was the current day Moses, and she helped a lot of people escape slavery like the real Moses did to find the word. Right below me, you can read where Joseph Bryan was popping champagne and celebrating the great success of the sale. And after Pierce Butler netted almost $10 million in today's money, he went around and handed each one of the people that he sold a bill. Was it a $2 bill, maybe from the horse track that was right there that they were being auctioned off at? Or was it maybe $2 bills from the politicians that were there to buy those people? You know, when I got my mother's old Bible, it was full of $2 bills. They used to give her one every Sunday whenever she would sing for the church in the choir. You know me and my family love you, so please continue to follow us on this Christian journey. And in Jesus' name, have a blessed day.